What is up, everybody? Welcome. We are live here at Sharing Our Stories. My name is Slim with Nani Al-Jalil from Tribe Recovery Homes, and our guest in the middle, who we will introduce in just a moment, celebrating his just over a year in recovery. So excited to have him here. That is one of the requirements of coming on Sharing Our Stories, is that you have a year in recovery. That's probably the main requirement. That, and you have to be in recovery.
Yes, that's the other piece that we care about.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And that actually is a good point. Whatever recovery looks like for you, because there's so many ways to get there, and what recovery is for you. But this program is all about recovery. We bring in guests from all around Colorado and anywhere else. We welcome people from all over to come in and share in their story of recovery, because there's not one pathway to recovery. There's not one way to do it. I say an endless. I think that a new way can be found every single day that somebody reaches their recovery. So we bring in guests each week to share in their recovery. Weren't able to be here last week because we were snowed, and also because Nani had the vid.
The vid.
How many times have you had COVID?
Listen, I've had COVID 3 times.
Hey.
Me and my roommate were trying to figure out, this may have actually been the 4th time that I've had it, but 3 for sure.
How did you get it? Do you know where you were?
I know who the culprits were.
Oh, you know who the culprit was.
I know the culprits.
You can point the finger.
Yeah.
Remember, you point a finger 3 back at you.
That's it. I know.
Don't get too specific, but you know who.
I know who it was. Yeah. Well, I know who went out first, and then.
Every time that you've gotten COVID, do you feel like you knew how it happened? Because I got COVID at a concert, at the Lizzo concert on Halloween. I was there, never had COVID. I had survived at least 2 years, COVID free. Went to this concert, woohoo! High-fiving strangers, just shaking it, enjoying it. 2 days later, I believe, and I don't even know if it was 2. But yeah.
Sick.
Doom. How is COVID the 4th time? Third time.
Third time.
How is it the 3rd time?
3rd time. The first time I didn't even know I had it. It was when I was working somewhere and we were being tested every week. That's how I found out.
Okay.
2nd time I had it, I was deathly sick. And I was sick for about a week. And then I had that long COVID afterwards. So it was a good 2 months before I started feeling back to 100%. And this time I had it, it was like a very, very serious head cold.
I don't play with COVID. I do know folks that have lost their lives. And so I got no time for joking and playing with it. But, oh, man. We can say, you got the vid, but on the real, I'm glad you're okay.
For real, yeah.
I'm glad you're good.
Yes. I know people who in the very beginning, too, I know a couple of people who, too, that were on life support. So
I have a neighbor, one of my favorite neighbors. What's up, Karen? Karen Keys, what's happening? I love her to death. And I know somebody who lost their sense of taste, still does not have it back.
Still hasn't come back.
Still. It's permanent. I'm like, how do you do that? Okay, let's focus on recovery here. Let's not focus on COVID. In between us, Benny Martinez, Benito.
Yes, sir.
Benito. That's such a great name, man. Benito.
I'm named after my dad.
Are you?
Yeah.
Just after your dad, not also a grandfather?
No.
Okay, because I'm the 3rd. So I'm named after my dad and my grandfather. So I don't know how far back it goes for you.
I don't really know either. I just know there's me, my dad, and I think my dad's uncle, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, it's just me and my dad.
Does he also go by Benny?
No, he goes by Ben.
Ben?
Or Papa.
He goes by Ben.
Yeah.
I don't know many Benitos that go by Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I go by both.
You go by both. Benny, Benito, and Ben.
No,
not
Benny
Ben.
Benito.
Just Benny
Ben's
and Benito.
my dad.
Okay, that's dad. That's dad's nickname. All right. Benny, you are you're not a graduate because you're still there, but you have gone through recovery at Hazelbrook Sober Living.
Yes, I have for a year.
For the past year. Big shout out to everybody at Hazelbrook.
Hazelbrook.
I want to thank you for being a guest.
Thank you.
Man, it's our pleasure to have you. There's nothing more important to us than the guests that come in and share. And our goal here is just to reach one person in recovery, whether that's a friend, a family member, maybe it's somebody who's in recovery who just said, man, I needed to hear about somebody that reminds me of myself. Maybe there's somebody out there going, you know what? I didn't even realize how much I'm struggling in addiction. maybe I'm just dealing with some alcoholism. Maybe I'm dealing with some drugs in my house. Maybe I thought it was just something that I was doing, casually, but it's really running my life. And they're watching this going, man, they're talking to me about me and for me.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
Thank you for being our guest.
I'm excited.
And this is where we turn it over to Benny Martinez from Denver. He is our guest here on Sharing Our Story. So thank you, Benny.
Thank you. I've been in recovery for about a year now. My check-in date was October 20th. My probation officer actually recommended.
What'd you call it? Your check-in date?
Yeah, my check-in
okay.
date. My probation officer, and Jeff Co, recommended it for probably a couple of weeks. What pushed me to get in recovery was my mom got breast cancer. And at that time, me and her were fighting really bad. And she didn't know that I was on drugs. I had just got out of jail. I was trying to do the right thing, and I just didn't know how to cope with it. And I didn't know how to deal with like my mom getting breast cancer. And then a week after she kicked me out of our home, I fell down the stairs and got like a blood clot in my leg and was in the hospital for a couple of days. And then I was missing UAs because I couldn't walk and stuff like that. So my probation officer recommended it, and took her a couple of weeks to get me into Hazelbrook, but I finally gave in and checked in. I decided, I can't be there for my mom. I can't be there for myself. If I can't be there for my mom and myself, how the hell am I? Sorry.
No, you're good.
Am I
You're
gonna
good.
be there for anybody else? And
I want to back you up.
Yeah.
I want to back you up a few years, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
To where did it start?
My addiction?
Yeah.
So I've been an addict my whole life. It wasn't drugs at first. I used to be 415 pounds. I used to use food to cope with things. When I was bullied in high school, when I was fighting, when I was dealing with stuff like with arguments with my parents, I would always turn to food. And then I finally decided, because I had sleep apnea, I had high blood pressure, I was borderline diabetic. I was on the verge of losing my health. So I decided, let me see what my doctor can do.
Did you recognize then that you had an addiction to food and you used food? As
No, actually, I didn't know that until last year or this year when I was in therapy. But so I decided to get the gastric bypass. And then my sister also got pregnant with my first niece. So I decided, I want to be there for my niece when she's older. I want to be an active uncle. I want to be active in their lives. So I decided to get the gastric bypass surgery, got the surgery. Surgery went horribly wrong. I was in the hospital for like a week because the doctor didn't do the surgery right. So that changed it. So after the gastric bypass recovery, I recovered. I did everything good for about, I think I want to say up until my grandma died. My grandma is the reason why I started my addiction. She came to Colorado from Arizona to get help because she had cancer, and she moved in for a month with the family, me and my mom, my dad, my sister, and my niece. And like, we just rebuilt because we had a horrible past as for a while there. And she came back and she moved in with us, and we, like I said, we were helping her get help for her cancer. And then me and her were making plans. We were watching movies. Like, we were just rebuilding our relationship that we didn't have for, like, I want to say 10, maybe 11 years, maybe, because she had lived in Arizona for like 15, 20 years before that. So she had came back, and just one night we were just chilling on a Sunday night, getting ready for work the next day, and just her last words were, "Oh my God." And my mom screamed from the room, and I went in there. My dad was already doing chest compressions on her. So I jumped in and we did CPR. We brought her back because she wasn't coherent or she wasn't breathing or anything like that. And then the hospital took her, and we showed up to the hospital, I want to say 20 minutes later, and my mom was in the room already with her getting, while she was getting CPR again, because she flatlined when she was on the way to the hospital. And then just like after that, like, I didn't know how to cope with it. Like, that night after I left my mom and dad at the hospital, I went home. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything. Like, I just did not know how to cope with it. And then a couple of days later, I called a friend and I was like, dude, I was like, I can't handle this pain no more. And I was like, do you want to hang out? And he was like, yeah. So I went to his house. I thought we were just gonna, hang out or whatever. And I looked over and I seen a bong, and that was it. Like, I coped with it that way for 7 years. And during that time, I lost my job. A year after my grandma died, I ended up in the hospital because of what are they called when aftermath of the surgery? Like I don't know. So I went into the hospital, and if it turned out that the doctor didn't do my surgery right the first time, that he left the whole like gastric bypass or together, and he was supposed to separate it. And after that, I was in the hospital for 3 months. I almost died several times while I was in the hospital. And then one morning I woke up and I had an ostomy bag right here and a feeding tube right here. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I didn't know anything about what was going on. Like, I was just heavily sedated with the epidural. I got out of the hospital 3 months later. Still had the ostomy bag, still had the feeding tube, but I was slowly recovering. When I got out of the hospital, I have like this big scar from like right here all the way down, and a whole bunch of like incision wounds and stuff like that. So it affected me really bad, like not knowing, like not being able to cope with my grandma, and then having this full like disfigurement on my body. Like, it was hard. I pushed my parents away. I treated them like crap. Did a lot of stuff that I regret now. But during that 7 years, I used a lot of drugs to cope with it because I didn't know how to ask for help. I
Do you
didn't
feel
know how
like
to.
things elevated too? Because you said it started with a bong.
Yeah, it
And
definitely rose up to higher drugs, from marijuana all the way up to meth. I want to say
Mhm.
was the craziest thing that I've done. But it all, like, it's just because I didn't know how to ask for help. Like, and I was pushing my parents away. Like, and I'm one of those people, like, if you yell at me, like, I shut down right away. Or if you
Yeah.
raise your voice at me, I'm not going to listen to you. So, like, that's what it always escalated to with me and my parents. And so I pushed them away. My mom kicked me out, and I just kept them away from me until I was able to accept my body the way it was. And I still have trouble with it, but I'm able to accept it now, and I'm able to talk to people about it now. Like, me and my mom had a conversation a couple months ago about her breast cancer, because she has breast cancer, and
Mhm.
she had all that. And she was telling me, like, she just hated her chest the way it is. And I was like, I can relate, because I
Yeah.
have an ugly body too, I want to say. But for
You
those
have, you
7
have
years,
survivor.
yeah,
You have a survivor's body,
yes,
bro.
there you go,
Survivor's
Mhm.
body.
yeah. So for like 7 years, I was out running the streets, doing things that I shouldn't have been doing, stealing cars, car hopping and stuff like that, and doing things that I really shouldn't have been doing. And then I was hanging out with the wrong kind of friends. I was trusting the wrong people and stuff like that. And then I got into trouble in Jefferson County. I had borrowed a car from my friend that was stolen. And thank God this happened, because that's what got me into probation. The cops came up, rolled up on me, and took me to jail for 3 months. And then in that 3 months, like, I was mad at my parents because they didn't bail me out of jail. I was so angry with them. I remember, like, talking to my mom and yelling at her on the phone, like, why ain't you getting me out of jail? Like, I didn't do anything. Like, I was in denial at that time, and just didn't want to, like, tell him anything, because I was ashamed. Like, your son's on drugs and I don't know how to ask for help. So,
What was her reasoning that she was leaving you there?
because I
say?
needed the lesson.
Good.
Because I've always been like a troubled kid.
I'm not mad at her.
Yeah, I'm not mad at her. Never mad at my mom for anything like that. Like, it helped me grow as a person. It taught me a lesson. So, I want to say so 3 months after that, I got into my probation. I was assigned to Stephanie. I won't say her last name, but I hope she's watching. I still keep in contact with her. But I think I want to say 3 months after I was out of jail, I started messing up again. That's when I found out my mom had breast cancer and all that kind of stuff like that. So that's when my probation officer served me with a summons. And like me and my probation officer, we had a really close like connection. Like she was sharing me stuff like her past and stuff like that. And she actually like was one of the few people that actually really cared.
That's
Like
really awesome.
Yeah.
Because not everybody has that experience for sure. You know?
And she like, I saw like when she handed me the summons papers, she had this look on her face like a parent like has, like when my mom and dad look at me like and they're ashamed, like she had that look. And at that time, like I think I needed it because it wasn't my mom and dad looking at me like that. It was somebody that doesn't really know me, only knows what I tell them and knows what's like on the paper. So just the look of the amount of shame that she had in her face, like I was like, all right, let's do this. So about a week later, after she gave me the summons paper, she was in our meeting, we were talking and she was like, I want to recommend this place called Hazelbrook. And I was like, what is it? And she was like, she described it to me. And I was like, so is it like a halfway house with like just men? Like, I was like, what is it? And like kind of scared me at first. And she was like, no, she's like, it's a sober living. You go, you learn a new way of life. You build structure, you take a foundation and build from that or whatever. You get a job, you rebuild your life. And I was like, what do I have to do? And she's like, nothing. She's like, you just have to show up. She was like, we'll fund you for 3 months. Help you get on your feet so that way you don't go back to jail. And I was like, okay, whatever. So she set up a time and I didn't show up. I was scared. I didn't want to be in a house with 15 people.
The first.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not the first. So it took about 2 weeks. And then finally I was like, all right. I was like, I can't do this no more. I was like, let's do it. So I went in her office. We've tried to call the people at the intake. It was about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks out from where we got it originally set up because like Hazelbrook, they help people that come in from court. They help people from prison and stuff like that. So when they get that intake, they have to take that intake first is what I was told at that time, but which was fine. Like my probation officer kept pushing for it. She kept calling the intake guy. She kept doing all the footwork for me. And then finally, like just at like, I think it was the day before October 21st, she calls me and she's like, we got you an intake. She's like, you need to go tomorrow at this time. She's like, if you don't go at this time, she's like, I'm going to put you in jail. And I was like, all right. I was like, let's do it. So the next day I showed up and from there it's been easy. It wasn't easy at first. I did the TSC program for 3 weeks.
For those that don't know, TSC?
It's the safety transitional transition. It's Hazelbrook's detox. It's where you go for phase 1 is where you go, you detox off for drugs. Like they don't have any medical like equipment or anything like that to help, but like you do it like all naturally, like you're there willingly, like you can leave if you want and stuff like that. You're there until you pee clean. And then
how was that process for you?
I slept the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy. That's when I first like figured out what was sober living. That's when I first figured out what a peer coach was. That's when I figured out what peer groups were. Cause like I didn't know anything. Like I was just thrown into this.
You've never had any exposure to anything.
This is my first time being sober. So I haven't relapsed or anything like that at all. So doing this for the first time. And
good for you.
the first 2 weeks was the hardest actually. The first week was okay. The second
sleeping was okay.
Sleeping was okay.
Week 1 was asleep.
So after I woke up, that's when I started going to the peer groups and stuff like that. I remember it was my turn to UA one day and I was sitting there trying to open the UA package and I just remember waking up on the floor. I defecated and peed myself. I had a seizure. And then I guess I had multiple seizures because I was on the floor for a long period of time, woke up in the hospital. Thank God the house manager at the time, Devden, was there. Devden helped me and held my hand and held my head and picked me up from the hospital and stuff like that.
Was that the first time you've ever had, was it seizures from withdrawal? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I figured that out. So they have me on medication for that now. A week after that, I went into the phase 2 of the TSC program, and that's where you get your cell phone back. You get a curfew. You can leave the house and stuff like that. You can start looking for a job and get your life together.
So it's like that initial reintegrating back into things.
Exactly.
Slowly.
Yeah. So that after that, it was easy. My first week there, they had mentioned the ACP program, which at that time it was the intensive outpatient IOP program. And I was like, well, what is that? And they were like, well, they explained to me, and it was, you go to group for 4 hours a day at the center, and you do group therapy with your peers that are in the program, males with males, females with males. So I was like, all right, let's give it a try. So I did it. At that time, the program was just starting off. The program was at its infancy. So they had one therapist and 2 houses for the men and women. And we would wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning and go to group until noon, and then go home. And then we would be in peer group. And then after that, we would have the rest of the day to do whatever we wanted. They, at that time, well, they still do it. They provide you with transportation. The only thing, they provide you with housing and stuff like that. And then the only thing that you have to pay for is your own food, which was cool. Cause I mean, we all have Medicaid, we have food stamps and stuff like that. So it's pretty convenient and well worth it. I did the program up until January. I was one day away from graduation, ready and excited to graduate. And the day before, me and my roommate were having issues. My roommate kept asking me if I can help him like clean up the room and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, he was asking me for guidance because he was a younger gay guy and stuff like that. So I was on his ass, I was on him telling him how to clean up himself, how to be a better person. And I guess I wrote him too hard. So like that night we were getting ready for bed, like we were getting ready for class. The next day I was ready for graduation, and he wants the window open. And I'm like, dude, it's like 10 degrees outside. Like, do we really need the window open? And he was like, yeah. So he went to reach for the window thing that was in the window, and it looked like he was gonna hit me. So I grabbed it and I was like, no, I was like, you ain't gonna hit me. I was like, no, we ain't gonna do this. So like me and him got in a scuffle, and I told him, I was like, all right, I'm gonna let this 2x4 or whatever it was go. And if you hit me, you're gonna see what's gonna happen. So he let it go and he hit me in the forehead, and I beat him up pretty bad and defended myself in the best way that I knew how.
Sounds like you defended yourself.
I ended up going to jail that night and went to jail for about a month and a half, maybe. But during that time, like, that's when I realized, you need to take accountability for the things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't go around beating people up because you have a bad temper. Yeah. So I took everything that I learned in that 3 months of the ACP program, and then what I had learned from our peer coach at the time, which was Trip. Trip had taught me a lot about accountability. If you can't take accountability for your past and what you've done and the things that you do and the things that you say, then you're really not doing what you should be doing in life. Like, if you kind of take accountability for things and not blame other people for the things that you do, then you're not doing it right. So I sat there for a month and a half, and I thought about everything, and I was like, I need to get my life together. I'm almost 38. Like, I should have listened to my parents a long time ago. It's time to grow up now. So I got out of jail, went and stood with my mom for a week and a half, maybe. This is the first time I moved out on my own without having the cops called on me. So that was a good thing. But I got myself back into the ACP program. At first, they didn't want to let me in because of the altercation that happened at the house. But I proved to Trip that, I'm a changed person. Give me a second chance. And he was like, I'm all about second chances. So by the time I got back into the ACP program, they had restructured it into a much better program now. Like, it is, I highly recommend the ACP program. Like, if you're struggling with addiction and you don't know anything about coping skills or a foundation of how to get away from not knowing how to say no and stuff like that, like, I highly recommend it. Like, the therapy and the therapists that they have are amazing. They helped me out a lot. That's when I learned that I've been an addict my whole life, like, from using food as a coping skill, and then having the surgery and not being able to use food as a coping skill to use drugs and stuff like that. So After I graduated the ACP program, I moved into the transitional housing, like regular housing for Hazelbrook. And I've been at the Jamaica house for, I want to say 4 months now. I think it's been about 4 months now. The guys in the house are great. Jacob, Freddie, Dylan, Nick, all those guys, like they're all like my brothers now. Like I used to like not want to be around straight men because I'm gay. And I used to fight a lot of straight men when I was younger. So like I never used to like straight guys and like
we love you. I love you, man.
But like it was a weird transition for me like the last 6 months. So I have more straight friends than I have gay friends now, and I love it. But the guys in the house, like we all take care of each other. We're all supporting each other. And then my peer coach now, Pete Cantu, oh my God, he's my mentor. Like I want to be like him now. I want to do community outreach. I want to help people off of the streets and stuff like that. He's taught me so much about recovery and where I want to be and what I want to do. I've decided like in the last few weeks, like after I got my 1 year of sobriety, I want to start like doing community outreach like Pete does, but I want to do it in the LGBTQ community and with the younger adults and the youth, because they don't know that they don't have to sell their bodies. They don't have to do things to make a living, or they don't have to use drugs just for a social setting and stuff like that. Cause that's what happens a lot in the gay community.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
And doesn't always get talked about, right?
It's overlooked.
It's just such an overlooked thing.
And then it's sad because like a lot of the kids that use drugs, or a lot of the people that use drugs in the community, like they get addicted to it, and then that's how they become HIV positive, or they, get into situations where they're robbed and stuff like that, because GHB is now really popular in the gay community, and that's the date rape drug. So people are getting robbed left and right, and kids are getting raped and stuff like that. So that's what my focus wants to be, is I want to get my peer coaching certification, and I want to get into that kind of line of work to where I'm able to help others and young adults and the youth get off of the streets and off of drugs, because it's hard out there.
Good for you. Yeah, good for you to use your experience in that way.
Yeah.
Have you found that there's been much of a community? Have you found much of a community within the LGBTQ?
So I found a few places, but I haven't really looked into it yet. My one of the peer coaches at Hazelbrook, Kim, was telling me that there's a few places that I can look into. I was telling her like, so before like my addiction and stuff like that, I went to school for my medical associate's degree, and that's what I originally wanted to do, but all this happened. So now I want to use that, and I want to get my certification. And
because you can do both things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then another thing that Hazelbrook has taught me is like communication, accountability, the coping skills and stuff like that. I now have my mom and my dad back in my life. I'm slowly getting my sister back in my life with my nieces. I've done some pretty bad stuff to them, and Hazelbrook has taught me how to talk instead of yelling and stuff like that. And they've taught me how to communicate with my parents, and I've never known how to like talk to them before. Like I was always ashamed of being on drugs. I was always ashamed because a lot of my family on my mom's side is on drugs, and a lot of them haven't made it out the best way they can. Like I still see some of them because I work for RCD, and I see some of them on the bus, and I'm like, I'm glad I got out. Like I'm glad I'm like, I feel bad for them because like they didn't grow up knowing any better. Like that's all they know. Like, so it's sad seeing them like that. But at the time, like I didn't want to tell my parents like, oh, look at me, I'm just like the family, or like, oh,
it's hard. It's really hard to say, hey, mom, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things you said that I wrote down was I didn't know how to ask for help. And that hit me hard because, man, I could have solved my own problems with addiction when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Instead of in my 40s, because all I needed to do was ask for help. And I know my mom would have been there. My family would have been there. I have friends who were in addiction with me, who even would have been like, man, I understand what you're going through. I want to help you. I don't want you to be where we are right now. But I didn't know how to ask or think of even asking. Or you probably even thought, man, my mom, she's not going to have my back. But she would. We don't realize how much they have our back.
You know, she was always there for me, like just everything that I've been through in life, like with the surgeries and stuff like that. Like asking for help was just something I didn't know how to do,
it's not their fault. Like we can't, like, mom, it ain't your fault.
Right.
You know, I know you're like, just why didn't you tell me? But I don't know how to tell you.
And then like, even like as a kid, like I never knew how to talk about it. Like I was always shut down when I was yelled at. I would always, don't do that. No, like I would always bottle up and I would just sit
and
there.
You sure weren't trying to get caught either. So it's not like you were putting it out there where it's like, hey, mom, see, I got a problem. Maybe you'll reach out and help me. No, we're trying to hide that too.
Yes.
You know, I want mom to be proud of me. I'm mom's best kid.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
Now, I might have issues, but I'm still mom's best kid. I promise. You know?
Yeah. It just wasn't easy. Like even talking about it now, like I'm nervous about what's going to be happening after the show, but
you're going to get a lot of love is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
After this show, you're going to get a lot of love, except from one person who said it's weird he didn't shout me out. And that's Trebor, Trebor.
Oh,
he said good stuff, Benito, but he's upset you didn't shout him out. So you better.
Sorry, Trey.
Okay. There. Now you'll be.
We see you, Trey.
Now you'll be in the clear.
Yes. My bad.
But no, you're going to get a lot of love when you're done here.
Yeah, I know. My parents have seen how much progress I've made over the last year. We've talked about things as far as like family members being in addiction, and like my dad used to be an addict. He was an alcoholic for a good like 30 years, I want to say. And he quit cold turkey because my niece was born. And he quit cold turkey. He hasn't went back since the day that my niece was born. And I applaud him for that. And like we were having a conversation. He's like, son, you just don't know what it's like being an addict. And at that time I would have been like, Dad, I do know. But like at that time I was still scared. Like, what are they going to say? Or what are they going to do? Like, I couldn't tell him. But like now I'm proud of my dad. Like my dad is my world. Like he is my superhero. Like I look up to him, like after like seeing him go through everything, like what he did and all that kind of stuff. Like I admire my dad so much.
What's up, Ben? What's up, Ben?
Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom. But I admire both of my parents, especially for what they know they've been through and what I've been through. And we're definitely working our way up to a better relationship. Like I know I've hurt them and I apologize so much to you guys, but
they know.
Yeah.
Parents, they've seen me grow.
No.
Love, man.
And sometimes the best apology we can ever give people is just when we do something different.
Yeah.
Right. Like
yes.
Saying I'm sorry and I apologize. That's worth it too. And also when you just show up and you live your life in a different way, that's the best I think our parents ever want to see from any of us who have been through this. Right.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like how you said, like you change. Like I haven't had a job in like the last 6 years, mainly because of like my surgery or whatever. But a lot of it, like I haven't worked, and like I would always tell my parents, I'm looking for a job. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And like now I'm finally doing it. I'm finally working a job, and they see like I'm buying my own things. Like every once in a while I'll need help with money because I was sick or whatever. But they're willing to help me as long as, I know I'm doing good.
You're walking that path of your recovery, man.
Yeah.
What does that look like on a daily basis now? You're still with Hazelbrook, so you've got a great support system.
Yes.
But what is it daily? What's the daily look like?
Oh my gosh. So I work for RTD and I do surveys on the bus, and it is so hard riding the bus and being around the homeless people and the users that ride the bus to get warm and stuff like that, especially this time of the year. Like it is so hard. Like sometimes I get really triggered, but I'm able to get through it. Like I remember I have my pillow to go home to. I have Jake I can call. I have Pete I can call. I have all the guys in the house that I can call if I need a ride, if I need somebody to talk to. Like, so like that's
because you're out there in the mix.
All of it. Like the other day there was this lady doing heroin on the light rail, and I was like, oh my God, like this is really happening, and this is where we are right now. Like, so like other than that, like my day is easy. Like I have my peer coaching on Tuesdays with Pete. peer coaching with Jake on Thursdays, and then during the week I just hang out with the guys when I'm off work or not going to work, or we all support each other. We're all each other's support system and stuff like that.
It's awesome, right?
Yeah, I love it. What was I gonna say?
So break down the day though, because I want to know, waking up to the end of the day.
Wake up.
What's, because you're just past a year.
Yeah.
So I want to know, what does a day look like in terms of how do you cope with addiction and continue your recovery?
So my day, I wake up, text my mom, "What are you doing, woman?"
I love it.
You want to go to lunch?
That's what I'm talking about.
Once
This
a week
is what
we
I'm
go to
saying.
lunch.
Okay.
So I text her to see what she's doing, how she's doing, where she's at, because she works up the street from where I live. So we're really close, so I can stop by there on the bus. But wake up, go to work, text my mom, chat with the guys around the house every once in a while. And then I'll go to work, get off work, and then come home. I don't really do any AA or anything like that. Like it just never was really for me. But just peer groups, peer coaching, like peer coaches and stuff like that. The guys in the house, like they're my support system. They're the ones that, my parents especially. I know I can call them at any time. Now I know I can ask for help. Now I know how to do it, and now I do it. But I talk to people, my family, by my family, I mean the guys in the house too. Like, they're all like my brothers, little brothers, big brothers, all of them.
And you do service too. We talked a little bit in the beginning about how you have just started being able to share your story, and kind of, we can only keep what we have by giving it away.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I shared my story in a peer group at the TSZ house. And I explained to them, like, this is what I've been through. Told them that I was going to be here with you guys in a couple of weeks. And they were like, the next week, Pete had called or showed up for our group yesterday and told, or not last week, it was last week, and told us, you touched a lot of guys in the house, and they asked about you and how you're doing and what you're doing and stuff like that. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Like, I didn't know, like, people actually listened to me. Like, I mean, I know I've been in like the recovery for a year and stuff like that. And I know, like, the guys even tell me at the house, like, there are people in the program that look up to you. There are people that you've inspired and touched, like, with your story and stuff like that. And I'm like, no way. Like, that's not possible. Like, why would people look up to me? But but yeah, like, he told me, like, the guys liked what your story was, and you touched them, and they think that's cool. And one of the guys is in the house now that was at the house, and it seems pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's that idea of, like, we never know who we're going to have an impact on, and the people even we haven't even met yet.
Yeah.
Who have yet to hear your story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. It's crazy. And so now, like, after a year and all that kind of stuff, my struggles are like rent, how I'm going to make rent. Like, I went from getting funded by my probation officer to having no funds, having to find a job as soon as possible, to paying rent all at the same time. And so now I'm like paycheck to paycheck, like, because I pay weekly, and I'm like,
yeah,
like,
but would you rather be paycheck to paycheck on rent than when you were going paycheck to paycheck for drugs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's another
I'm scrambling to find rent money. I'm not scrambling to find drug money.
Right.
Come on.
Exactly. That's what I told one of my, that's what I told my peer coach. I'd rather be struggling than have money in the bank and knowing what I can do with that money than not having money at all. So, like, yeah, I don't mind the struggle. I mean, it gets hard from time to time.
And you're rebuilding.
Oh yeah.
You're rebuilding. Like, this isn't,
hard.
this isn't forever.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it got harder when I lost Medicaid and food stamps. I was like, dang, that was such a crutch on everything. So now I have to avoid COVID.
Don't sit so close. Sorry.
Right.
Nani, move. Nani.
No, you're good. I just gotta take better care of myself and budget wisely and stuff like that now. So
all those adulting skills.
Oh my God, I haven't done it in so long. It's so hard.
Yeah.
How long we wait to become adults.
I know.
Man.
I hint to my mom and dad every once in a while, like, can I just move in for like a month and save money? And they're like, no. No,
She's watching. Mom,
no, I couldn't do that to my
Don't.
mom. Yeah,
we're
But
just
yeah.
playing, Mom, because she'll say yes.
No,
'Cause
she
that's
won't.
how moms are.
No,
That's how moms are, though.
but I enjoy the struggle. Like the struggle is real, is what they say. So yeah, I enjoy it.
It's a different kind of struggle.
Yes.
And there are times where it does seem really difficult, but nothing, at least for me, I know that nothing was more difficult than the last phases of my addiction.
Yes.
And there's nothing that could make me want to go back to that, to say
right.
That's an easier way.
I would rather be broke and struggling and paying rent than broke, struggling and using drugs.
That's
on
right.
the street.
That's right.
Doing things I shouldn't be doing.
That's right.
Yeah. And in time, I mean, I know in the beginning too, it's like you have to learn how to finance things or budget things again. You have to learn how to find balance and do all those things. And eventually you find your niche and you get it figured out, and it gets so much easier.
Yes. And I'm slowly doing that. Like the other day I checked my credit score and I was like, dang, this is at 714.
Good for
like,
you.
dang,
Come
I went from
on.
Like
nothing
that
to,
for
whoa,
you.
Right?
Yeah,
I was like, I
man.
got white people
Come
credit.
on. High five. Say it again.
Yeah.
Right? I was
Yeah.
like, dang, like, so yeah, like getting there, but I'm not there yet. But
Get them, Benny.
it takes time.
Yeah, it does.
What are some of the goals that you do have? So this is, look at all the things that you've accomplished just in this last year. Where do you see yourself in another
year? Definitely a better relationship with my parents. Like we have one now, but with my sister in it, like I want to be there with my sister. Like my sister is my world. She was my first best friend. Like my sister knows me and like we know each other. So I definitely want a relationship with my sister. I want to be there with my nieces.
Your mom said you can't move in, by the way.
That's okay, and then I want to, like I said, get my peer coaching certification. I want to do that, get that going with the career. And then I want to get my own place. Yeah. I don't care about a car. I just want my own place.
Yeah. And those are really reasonable.
I want my
own
attainable goals.
Yep.
I want my privacy. Like I share a room with the two greatest guys, Dylan and Nick or John. But I want my privacy. Like, I want to be able to go walk around and
we all like to walk around like that. We all like to walk like that. Okay.
We know. I want to do everything.
We all like that. We get it.
Like I ain't even gotta have a car. I just want my own apartment. I want my own space. I want my own time with me.
You'll get there. You'll have that.
It'll take time.
You will.
It always does.
Manifest that for yourself in the next year.
Yeah.
Because like I said, look at what you've done just in this year.
Yes. And you had to be ready to do it.
Yes.
Because being alone it's not always cracked up to be.
Right.
So you got to be ready for it.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm ready.
I think you are.
Eventually I will be. Like right now I still like have my ups and downs on some days, but I know eventually, like probably in a month or two.
And when you get to that, I'm moving out on my own, you got to remember that support team you got.
Yeah.
Yes.
This group of fellas that you've made that's become your team, your squad, man.
Yeah.
Don't move out on them and move out of their lives.
Right. Oh no. I still talk to a few of the guys that I met a year ago, T and Luke. I still talk to them and they're still in the program, but like we're not in the same house, but I still keep in touch with them. Kaylee, I mean, I still talk to everybody that I won't ever lose contact with these guys. Like this is my family. Like this is my extended family and my day is with these guys and my family.
I love that. I love that about Hazelbrook. And I do know that about your community. And tribe feels the same way. It's like you build a family and your community together and you go to events together, you hang out together, you've learned how to, you basically in a sense, you grew up together, right? Because you're just starting out, you're figuring things out, you're growing and learning and
you have each other's back.
You have each other's back. Yep.
Yeah. When one doesn't have anything, the other has it, or think, we can always ask each other for help. And it's just one big, small family,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great community to be a part of.
Yeah.
What is something you want to share with somebody struggling? Maybe they're not even sure that they're struggling in addiction, but maybe they just, they're drinking too much on the weekend, having a little bit too much casual fun with drugs with their friends on the weekend. And they watch a program like this and they start to think about, man, maybe I have a problem. What do you want to say to somebody who's dealing with addiction and trying
You're
to
not
put it out.
alone. Definitely not alone. If you don't know how to ask for help,
I knew it.
That's the part.
that's the part that you need.
That's what.
That's the
If you don't
part.
know how to ask for help, plan a program like Hazelbrook, Tribe, Monarch, all those sober livings that can help you with the resources, because they all got resources and they're very useful.
That's right.
Utilize
That's right.
them. And then once you get into a program like Hazelbrook or whatever you choose, take accountability, build your foundation of coping skills, strategies, the daily life, relearn it, get off of the stuff because it's not good. And then go from there, rebuild your life and learn to ask for help, learn to communicate, learn to take accountability, learn the coping skills, all that kind of stuff, emotional intelligence, all that kind of stuff. And go from there. And watch shows like this because we're all supporting everybody. And if one can't help, then somebody else can.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So I met you in September.
Yes.
At the recovery rally.
Yes.
At Civic Center Park. I'm so glad. I always feel like things are supposed to happen the way things happen.
Yes.
And when we crossed paths that day and I told you about this program, you said, I want to be on that.
Yes.
And I gave you my number and here we are. I want to thank the higher power that put the two of us together that day. And I want to thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh man, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
No, man, we appreciate you coming in here and sharing your honesty, your openness, your strength, your courage, man. And where you're at,
yes,
and where you're going.
Yes.
All right, because this is only the story thus far.
Yes.
It continues.
It does.
And part of that continuing is when you come back and you tell us, so I'm a peer recovery coach. Let me tell you the places that I work for here in the city. Let me tell you how I'm reaching out to the LGBTQ community. Let me tell you the things that I'm doing.
Yes.
Because I'm a spokesperson in recovery.
Yes.
And that's what you are here today. So
thank you.
Man, come on with it.
Yes.
Come on with it. You got a lot of people that came through to give you love. Your mom, Sharon Martinez.
What?
Yes,
Hi,
Danette Gutierrez, Tanil Castillo.
Hi, Tanil.
Pete Cantu.
Pete?
Oh, Pete's on there for you.
Hey, Pete.
Trey. Trey said, man, you better shout me out. Jacob Fika.
That's my house
Cheryl
manager.
Hancock.
Hey, Cheryl.
Devontae McAfee.
What up, Devontae?
Blue Hucalo.
What up?
Vic Benjamin. Jason Stein. And my cousin Irma.
Hey, cousin Irma.
Thank you again for coming in. All right. Nani, did you want to wrap anything up and ask him?
No, thank you.
No,
thank you for coming in today and for what you're learning to do and where you're headed. And you're a bright, shiny light. So
thank you.
Yeah.
We'll do this again in the future because we got to have a second year update.
Yes.
We want to thank everybody for being here, for sharing our stories with us. This program is available on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Our main headquarters, though, is right here on Facebook. That's where we really know that we can contact our people in our community here in the Mile High. If you want to be on this program, please get us a message on Facebook. You can even leave a comment here and we will search you out, but we would love to have you come in as a guest and share in your story of recovery. And remember, whatever your pathway is to recovery, it matters here. We want people to know about it. And we want to celebrate in that recovery. So reach out to us, facebook.com/SOS, sharing our stories on YouTube and on Instagram. And once again, thank you. And we will be back here next Wednesday, about 6 o'clock Mountain Time, right here for sharing our stories. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Bye.
Benny! Benito! Benito!
Hazelbrook.
That's right.